Hey volleyball fanatics, I'm Coach Nate Friel, and today we're diving into the exciting world of the 6-2 offense in volleyball. We're going to break down its key features, get familiar with some volleyball lingo, and understand the roles everyone plays on the court. Whether we're serving up the ball or getting ready to receive, I'll walk you through each rotation step by step. Ever wondered how to master this dynamic offense? Well, you're about to find out. Are you pumped to learn and ready to have some fun? Let's jump right in. Let's dive more into the 6-2 offense, a super cool strategy in volleyball that you'll see a lot as you grow in the game. In the 6-2, we've got 6 powerhouse hitters and 2 strategic setters. Picture this, 3 hitters always ready to spike in the front row and a setter who's like the quarterback of volleyball, always in the back. Unlike some offenses where the setter might play in the front row, in the 6-2, we keep them in the back to let our 3 front row hitters shine at the net. It's like having the best of both worlds. Now let's make sense of this with our diagram. Think of it as a volleyball map. Our setters, they're marked in pink. The outside hitters, they're in green, and our middle blockers are in cool blue. Imagine our setters as team captains. S1 is chilling in zone 1, and the other, our right side or opposite, hangs out in zone 4. When they rotate and the right side opposite finds himself in zone 1 and S1 in zone 4, they swap roles, keeping our offense fresh and unpredictable. Let's name our players to avoid confusion. Front row outside hitter, that's outside hitter 1. Back row, you guessed it, outside hitter 2. Same goes for our middle blockers, middle blocker 2 in front, middle blocker 1 in the back. It's like a little game of volleyball musical chairs. Before we jump into the rotations, let's take a breather. Hit pause, check out the diagram, and think about how this setup could be a game changer on the court. Ready for the first rotation? Let's roll. All right, team, let's jump into rotation 1, starting with the serve. But first, a quick chat about some special players who make the 6-2 offense super adaptable. Think of our upcoming diagrams like a game plan. It's our starting lineup, but we can always switch it up to play to our team's strengths. Imagine we've got a back row outside hitter who's an ace at spiking, but not so much at defense. No problem. We bring in our defensive specialist, or DS, a champ at passing and digging, to sub in for OH2. It's like having a secret weapon for defense. Now about our middle blocker in the back row. Suppose they're not the best at passing. Here comes our libero, the defense dynamo. They're easy to spot in their different colored jersey, and they're all about back row action. They can't join the front row party, but they can sub in for any back row player. In our game plan, they'll mainly switch with the middle blockers. Let's bring our sideline squad into the picture. OH2, MB1, and even an S2 ready to step in for the right side hitter when it's their turn in the back row. We might have more players ready to sub, but we'll focus on these 9 to keep things clear. Now that we've got our special players lined up, we're all set to dive into serve. Rotation 1, let's get ready to serve up some strategy. Let's set up our first rotation for serving. Here's how our players line up. Our setters in zone 1, OH1 in zone 2, and so on. Remember, being in rotation means each player has to stay within their zone based on who's next to and around them. Once the serve contact is made, players no longer have to be in rotation. Let's give an example. Our setter in zone 1 needs to stay to the right of the libero and behind OH1. When we serve, we're setting up our players to smoothly move to their base positions. That's where they'll be most effective. Let's start with our front row. We keep our middle blocker anchored up at the net at their base to start off strong. Our outside hitter and right side hitter, also known as the pin hitters, are stacked up front, close to where they need to be. Now for the back row, our setter can serve from anywhere along the end line. That's the cool part about serving. You're not bound by the rotation rules here. What about our libero and defensive specialist, the DS? The DS's base is in the middle back, so they'll shift a bit closer there. And our libero's base, it's on the left side, near the 10D line. They'll move closer to their bases, but remember, they can't break the rotation rule until the serve happens. Once that ball is served, it's go time. Everyone should yell base and move quickly to their base positions, ready to counter the opponent's attack. Think of it like a well-oiled machine, each part moving smoothly to its place. Alrighty team, let's say we've just lost a point and are now setting up for serve-receive. Our main goal, get 3 solid passers ready, but keep our setter out of the passing lineup. We also want someone up front, just before the 10-foot line, to handle any surprise short serves. And remember, staying in rotation is key during a serve. For our setup, let's keep it simple and effective. In this video, we'll always have our setter push up in serve-receive. So in rotation 1, the outside hitter gets pushed up by the setter. This leaves a gap in the right back, which the libero will slide over to cover. Next, the DS slides over too, and to complete our trio of passers, the right side, who's at the net in zone 4, will pull back to pass. But what if a short serve sneaks over the net? That's where our middle blocker steps in, ready to cover anything short on either side. Notice how this setup gives us 3 strong passers, keeps our setter from making the first contact, and everyone's still in rotation. Now here's a little addition for our serve-receive play in this rotation. After the pass, our front row attackers might not have enough time to get into their usual approach positions. So for this first ball, I like to keep the right side and outside hitter where they are. This is what I call stay one for the pin hitters. It means the right side acts like an outside and the outside acts like a right side. Meanwhile, our DS and libero are getting ready to cover and hover near their bases. After we've sent the ball back over the net, everyone shouts base as a quick reminder to get back to their default positions, ready to take on the rest of the rally, and that is serve-receive for rotation 1. Once we side out, which just means winning the point and getting the ball back to serve, we move into rotation 2. Remember how we brought in our defensive specialist, DS, for outside hitter 2 in rotation 1? Now we're going to switch them back, subbing our OH in for the DS. We're doing this because even though the DS can play in the front row, unlike the libero, our OH is the stronger hitter. This substitution strengthens our front row attack. So now we're all set for rotation 2. Since the setter was in zone 1 during the last rotation, we rotate, and now outside hitter 1 is up to serve. Notice how everyone's moved to a different zone. For our front row setup, our middle blocker is once again anchoring in the middle, arms up at the net, ready to seize any overpass from our opponents. Our outside hitter in the front row is already in their base position. Oh, how nice. And the right side hitter, though, needs to keep an eye on the middle blocker, making sure the MB is to their right until the serve happens to stay in rotation. Looking at our back row, the good news is our server, now the OH, isn't restricted by rotation rules and can serve from any point along the end line. This flexibility allows our setter and libero to start right at their base positions. At the moment of the serve, only the serving outside hitter and the front row right side hitter need to shift to their bases as everyone else is already in place. Let's take a moment to be reminded of something. Base position doesn't mean staying still. Volleyball is a dynamic game of movement, anticipation, and transition. Being in the base position means you're in the best spot to react to whatever comes your way. It's all about understanding your responsibilities and the areas you need to cover on the court. All right, team, let's say we've lost the ball and it's now the opponent's turn to serve. It's time for us to get into our serve-receive formation. Like in rotation 1, I prefer having our setter push up the right side or opposite. This change means we need someone else to step up for passing, and that's where our libero comes in, sliding over to fill the gap. Our front row outside hitter will also pull back to help with passing. Now our setter is up near their target position and our passers are all set. But what about those tricky short serves? Since the right side is pushed up by the setter and can't move behind them, we'll adjust our strategy a bit. Here's where we get clever with the rules of rotation. In this setup, Our front row middle blocker will be the one to handle any short serves. This might look like the middle blocker and setter are crossing paths, but that's okay. The setter, who's in zone 6, is only restricted by the back row OH on their right and the libero on their left. They can't be in front of the right side in the front row. The middle blocker in zone 2 is only limited by the OH behind them in zone 1 and the right side in zone 3. This clever crossover lets our setter get to their target, while the middle blocker is perfectly placed for any short serves. The referee blows her whistle. The opponent serves. One of our awesome passers sends a great pass to the setter, who's already positioned between zones 2 and 3. Our hitters and defenders quickly get into their attack approaches. As we deliver a powerful attack, everyone shouts base and gets to their positions. It's a perfect in-system play. Bump, set, spike, transition to base, rinse and repeat. To sum up this rotation's serve-receive, our setter in the middle back pushes up the right side. The libero slides over to cover middle passes. The front row outside hitter pulls back to pass, and the middle blocker, free from the setter's boundaries, covers any short serves. And that is serve-receive for rotation 2. Let's dive into rotation 3. Every time we side out and get the ball back, we rotate, which means our middle blocker 2 is up to serve. But wait, there's a little twist here. And notice anything odd? Exactly. The libero can't be in the front row. So they need to swap back with the player they initially replaced, in this case, middle blocker 1. Our libero is pretty versatile and can swap in for different players, but for now, they'll just replace the middles, giving them a break from the front row action. Plus, our libero is a star defender, so we want them in the back row as much as possible. In our setup, that means the libero is up to serve this rotation. Here's a fun fact. Internationally, liberos can't serve, but here in America, they can serve in one rotation, just like any other player. So back to rotation 3 and ready to serve. Up front, our middle blocker anchors at the net at their base position. OH2 stays to the right of the MB to keep us in rotation, and the right side hitter is already set at their base. In the back row, our libero, who's serving, isn't bound by rotation rules during the serve. OH1 moves deeper into their base, and the setter also shifts closer to theirs. As soon as the serve is made, everyone breaks from their rotation positions and heads to their base. The libero moves to the left back, just behind the 10-foot line, the setter to the right back, and the OH finds their spot at the front left of the court. Everyone's ready and anticipating, and that's how we set up for rotation 3 during the serve. It's all about positioning and being ready for what comes next. Okay, let's talk about what happens in rotation 3 once the other team gets the ball. This is the serve-receive phase of rotation 3. Remember, our aim in serve-receive is to have 3 strong passers, and we try to keep our setter from being one of them. This time, our setter, who's in zone 5, will push up the middle blocker. It's crucial that our setter doesn't move too far right, though. They need to stay in rotation with the back row outside hitter, who's sliding over to cover the gap left by the setter. Next, our libero slides over to cover the middle. And finally, the front row right side pulls back to join our lineup of passers. In this setup, since the middle blocker is pushed up by the setter, OH2 will drop back near the 10-foot line, ready to handle any short serves. Then, as soon as we convert the opponent's serve into our attack and the ball is sent back over the net, everyone shouts, base! This is our cue to transition to our positions, ready to play out the rest of the rally. So, to summarize for serve-receive in rotation 3, our setter in zone 5 pushes up the middle blocker, creating a space for the back row outside hitter and libero to slide over. The front row right side pulls back to complete our line of passers, and OH2 is on standby for those short serves. Guess what? We've now covered half the court with our first 3 rotations in the 6-2 offense. Remember how I mentioned at the start that one of the cool things about this system is the way rotations 1 through 3 mirror rotations 4 through 6. We're 15 minutes in, but hang tight. The next part of our journey through rotations 4 to 6 will be quicker. You'll notice lots of similarities to what we've already learned. Before we dive into the second half, let's take a moment to review. I'm going to give you a summary view of rotations 1 through 3. This is a great chance to pause the video, walk through each phase of the game, and really solidify what we've covered. Take your time to understand each position and movement. It'll make learning the next rotations a breeze. Once you're ready, we'll jump right into the rest of the rotations. Ready to keep learning and having fun with volleyball? Let's do this. Alrighty, we were just in rotation 3, but we've now sided out, which means we're moving into the serve phase of rotation 4. Here's a quick change. Our right side hitter, who's just rotated into the serving position, will sub with setter 2. Now setter 2 takes the reins as our setter because setter 1 has moved to the front row to become a right side hitter. As we set up for our serve, let's get our players in position. Our middle blocker is anchoring in the middle at the net. The OH and right side, which is actually setter 1 now, will position themselves near the middle, getting closer to their base positions. Meanwhile, our libero and OH1 adjust their positions to be closer to their bases, all the while making sure they stay in rotation. Once the serve is made, everyone quickly transitions to their base positions. And just like that, we've covered the serve phase of rotation 4. It's all about quick adjustments and being ready for action. Now let's look at the serve-receive phase, which you'll find mirrors rotation 1. And here's how it goes. Our setter will push up the outside hitter at the net. Just like before, both the libero and the back row OH will slide over to get ready to pass. And our right side, who's still labeled as setter 1 in this rotation, will pull back to join them as a passer. Wondering who's on duty for short serves? That's the job of our middle blocker. Remember this key point from rotation 1. For the first ball in this rotation, our pin hitters will stay 1 and attack from the sides where they started the rotation. After that initial play, everyone switches to their base positions to continue the rally. As we side out and transition into rotation 5, we're bringing up our outside hitter 2 to serve. However, in our strategy, we'll make a switch and bring our defensive specialist, DS, back in for the serve. This rotation's serve phase resembles rotation 2 and is pretty straightforward. Let's set the scene. Our middle blocker is, as usual, anchoring at the middle of the net. The outside hitter is already at their base position. The right side is waiting for the serve to move to their base. The back row setup is simple too. Both the libero and the setter are starting off right at their base positions, poised for the rally. After the serve is made, our DS will transition to middle back, and the opposite will find their spot at the net on the right side. And there you have it, the serve phase of rotation 5. In rotation 5's serve-receive phase, we'll have our setter push up the front row opposite, and this creates a space that our libero will slide over to fill. Next, our front row outside hitter will pull back to join the line of passers. Remember, one key tactic here is using the rules of rotation to our benefit. We'll have the middle blocker and the setter cross paths. Why? So that the middle blocker is in prime position to cover any short serves that come our way. Once we successfully handle the opponent's serve, everyone calls out base as a signal to move into our next positions, ready to play out the rest of the rally. As we move into rotation 6, we're gearing up for the serve phase. You might have noticed something important by now. That's right. The libero can't be in the front row, so they'll swap out with middle blocker 2 to bring them back into play. You might think it's time for the libero to step in for the back row middle blocker who's up to serve, but remember, the libero already served back in rotation 3, so this time it's middle blocker 1 who will take the serve. Here's a quick overview of this serve rotation. Up front, our middle blocker takes their position with the OH staying to their right until the serve is made. The right side hitter is already in their base position. In the back row, the setter and DS adjust a bit closer to their bases, but they need to stay in rotation until the serve. After the serve, it's all systems go. Everyone moves to their base positions. That includes the middle blocker who just served, heading to the left back position. As we enter the final phase of our 6-2 offense, we're looking at rotation 6's serve-receive. With the middle blocker in zone 1 no longer serving, we'll bring our libero back into play. In this serve-receive setup, like rotation 3, the setter pushes up the middle blocker. It's important for our setter to stay far enough to the left to create space for the DS to slide over and pass, remaining in rotation. The libero slides over too, paving the way for the right side to pull back and join our row of passers. Our trio of passers is now poised and ready. And let's not forget our front row OH, who's on standby for any short balls. As soon as we receive the pass, we're quick to set up an attack. Then, as the ball goes to the opponent's side, everyone shifts to their base positions, ready for what comes next. And that's a wrap on our deep dive into the 6-2 offense in volleyball. We've navigated through each rotation, detailing both the serve and serve-receive phases. Mastering these rotations is all about practice and teamwork. The more you work on them, the more natural they'll become, elevating your team's game. Remember, every great volleyball play begins with a strong foundation, and that's exactly what we're building together. Keep playing hard, and let's continue to grow and improve in this sport we love. Until next time, this is Coach Nate Friel, signing off.